A lot of men do not deserve to be in the presence of a plus size woman. Let's talk about it. Now, I know that this is going to ruffle the feathers of men and cause a lot of controversy. And of course, the podcast bros are going to be in the comments. But hey, I love to ruffle feathers. A lot of men do not deserve to be in the presence of a plus size woman because they don't know how to communicate and they don't know how to love effectively. Now, this goes for any woman, but me being a full figured woman, I can speak on the plus size women. Men do not know how to love and communicate properly with plus size women. And I could say in general, but I'm going to speak on my community. Now, as a plus size woman and as someone who has multiple plus size friends or full figured friends, I can definitely say that we have learned throughout the years how to communicate with not only our friend circle, but men, because we've always had to be on the back burner, or plus size women have always had to do more research or be more communicative or just do more as a full figured woman because that was what was expected from us. And as a plus size woman who has been single for about 4 years now, I can definitely say that a lot of us are single because a lot of men think that we're supposed to settle because we're full figured and they think that we're desperate. But that's not the case. A lot of us have been so content with being single and we're okay with being single if someone is not going to give us what we deserve. And again, I'm reiterating that this is not for all men because I do realize that there are some men who are with plus size women and know how to treat them and know how to communicate effectively. But for the men who do not, I'm speaking to them. And I will say that a lot of men are getting treated differently or getting disrespected from petite women. And this is no shade to my petite girls. I love y'all down. I love all women down. However, a lot of these petite women are showing you that you all are classified as tricks in their book. You all are there to pay a bill. You all are there, and not all petite women, but a lot of petite women. From what I've heard on podcasts and lives, a lot of these women are just using you all as meal tickets. But a lot of the plus size girls, we have our own. And of course, we're not going to settle for anybody, but we also know how to treat people because we've learned that a lot of men, they take advantage of us because we are more full figured and we are plus size. However, a lot of these men are getting disrespected and they're getting hurt because they're choosing to choose petite women and looking at the size versus what actually matters, which is how is their personality, how is their heart, are they humbled, are they a nice person? And a lot of y'all are selling yourself short because you choose the petite woman over someone who is larger. And I don't know if it's because you guys think that doesn't look right or it's not aesthetically pleasing, but I must say a lot of my plus size friends and the people that I've known, their face card does not decline when it comes to being a curvy woman. They may be a curvy woman, but that face card never declines. They know how to beat their face if need be. They know how to put that outfit on when they need to. And a lot of them are independent women who need for nothing and lack for nothing. They don't need you for a meal ticket. They don't need you to pay a bill because they've been paying it. And quite frankly, a lot of you men are missing out because you're scared to be with a plus size woman. You're scared that, I don't know why y'all are scared. Matter of fact, men in the comments, tell me why you're afraid to be with plus size women. Tell me. I would love to know. Sorry, y'all, my light died, which means I need to get off my rampage. But yeah, in the comments, I want y'all to tell me, like, if you're a full figure plus size woman, do you agree? Do you think that a lot of men choose to stay away from you or steer away from plus size women because they're afraid to be with a plus size woman, honestly? Or do you think, men, that that's not true? Or why do you choose a petite woman over a curvy woman? Until next time, bye.
What's going on, everybody? So after watching this video, I ain't gonna lie, man. When she said men don't deserve plus size women, I almost dropped my phone. I said, hold on. What kind of draft pick announcement is this? Since When did we start handing out human beings like championship trophies? See, this is one of those videos where I understand, people are going to get emotional, but let's just slow down for a second and think about what was actually said. Men don't deserve plus size women. That's a pretty wild statement, but let me ask you a question. Why would any man want you after hearing that? And no, I'm not talking about your size. I'm talking about your attitude, because that's a attitude-ish question or response. Because here's something I've learned in life. Confidence is attractive. Kindness is attractive. Humility is attractive. But arrogance, because that's an arrogant statement, that gets old really quick. It doesn't matter if you're skinny, plus size, muscular, rich, broke, tall, short. Pride has a way of making people unattractive. And before somebody run to the comments talking about, Paul, you're getting this wrong, you didn't hear her, you're attacking plus size women. No, I'm actually defending them, because I know way too many amazing plus size women to let somebody get online and act like she speaks for all of them. She doesn't. In fact, one of the closest people I work with is plus size. And she is one of the sweetest people you ever meet. Never had no issues getting a man, nothing. She's always smiling. She's funny. She's respectful. She lights up a room when she walks in it. We don't see her plus size, nothing. She just amazing. And let me tell y'all something. She doesn't have any problems getting attention from a man. Matter of fact, she does better than most of the skinny women I know. Why? Because people are attracted to peace. They're attracted to joy. They're attracted to someone who makes life better instead of more difficult. See, we spend so much time talking about body types that we've forgotten about character. Everybody's debating weight, but nobody's asking, are you pleasant to be around? Can I be honest? I'd rather spend my life with somebody who laughs with me than somebody who argues with me every single day, talking about what they deserve and what they don't deserve. I mean, I'd rather have somebody who's kind than somebody who's constantly reminding me what I don't deserve. You get what I'm saying? Imagine going on a first date and somebody sitting across from the table for you, talking about, you don't deserve me. I'd be looking around for the waiter. Check, please. Excuse me, I don't want to go through that. I just don't. Here's the truth. Most people don't reject bad attitudes because of your appearance. They reject bad attitudes because they're bad attitudes. Now, let me be fair. There are absolutely men out there who are disrespectful. I get it. There are men who judge women harshly because of their appearance. I get that. That's wrong. As Christian men, the ones who are Christian, we should never treat anybody who with disrespect because of how they look. Every person is made in the image of God and deserves dignity, period. The Bible is saying in James 2:1, believers in our glorious Lord Jesus Christ must not show favoritism. God doesn't tell us to value people based on their appearance. He looks, much deeper than that. And we should too. But here's the other side of that coin. Just because somebody has treated you badly doesn't mean you get to become bitter toward everybody else and put out statements like that. Hurt people often hurt people. I get it. And if we're not careful, we start punishing strangers for wounds somebody else gave us because of what we see when we look in the mirror. One thing people have to understand is this. Not all, but the majority of people tend to treat others the way they're being treated. Is that always right? No. As Christians, we're called to something higher than that. Romans 12:21 says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. That means when somebody is rude to me, I don't have to be rude to them back. I don't have permission for that. When somebody is disrespectful, I don't get to return disrespect. God called us to respond differently as Christians. That's what separates believers from the world. So if you've experienced rejection, don't let it harden your heart. Don't become the very thing that hurts you, because bitterness has a funny way of making us look in the mirror and blame everybody else while never asking God to change us. You know what I'm saying? And can I say something else? Social media has convinced everybody that confidence means announcing how amazing you are every 5 minutes. That's not confidence. That's marketing. Real confidence doesn't have to keep making announcements. Not at all. I've never met somebody who was genuinely secure, who had to keep reminding everybody how valuable they were. Secure people just live their lives. They don't have to convince the internet every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning the most attractive, people I've ever met weren't the loudest people in the room. They were the kindest. They listened, they smiled. They made other people feel important. They had humility. And here's what I wish more people understood. Relationships aren't about finding somebody who deserves you. They're about two imperfect people learning how to love each other, forgive each other, and grow together under God. The world keeps telling us to make lists about what everybody else needs to become. God spends a whole lot more time asking what we need to become, right? Instead of asking, do men deserve me? Maybe ask, am I becoming the woman God is calling me to be, right? And men, the same thing applies to us. Instead of asking what women deserve, ask yourself, am I becoming the man God has called me to be? Because here's the reality. Beauty might catch somebody's attention. In fact, it does. But character is what keeps them around. A relationship built on pride won't last very long at all. A relationship built on humility, grace, forgiveness, and Christ, that's something worth fighting for. So to this young lady, I genuinely wish her the best. I hope whatever hurt she's experienced, God heals it. I hope she realizes there are plenty of good men out there, right? Because she said she was single for the last 4 years. And I hope men realize there are plenty of wonderful plus size women out there too. Let's stop putting everybody in the same category because of bad experiences, man. At the end of the day, your size isn't what determines your value. It ain't going to keep you either. I'm telling you this. Your value comes from the God who created you. But your attitude, that's your responsibility. So smile a little more. Show people kindness. Give people grace. Don't do videos like that. You'd be surprised how much your life changes when your heart changes first. Trust me on that. And I'm going to leave it there. It's your boy, Paul P. God bless you all, and I'll catch you on the next one. Doses.